I'm excited to be welcoming Emily Campbell Snydall today, our VP of Content Marketing. Emily's long time with us, been on the pod several years ago. We were just reminiscing. But Emily, obviously very smart content marketer for us, but she had a great idea that we've taken and kind of built on to a very exciting direction for how we think about content strategy in the years to come, we think. So we thought it was worth bringing you on to talk through that. So that idea is product-led digital PR. Emily, what is product-led digital PR?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. So product-led digital PR is a strategy that we're really excited about at Siege. Essentially what it is taking a data collection focus to our content marketing efforts. And what that means is that more than ever, we're prioritizing the data that we're collecting for brands. We're doing this both for the Siege blog, but also for clients that we're working with. And we look for opportunities to run big trends reports, big surveys, to really collect proprietary data, unique data that we can leverage both for trends reports and survey content for more traditional digital PR projects. But also we take those learnings and we're now looking for opportunities to leverage them across statistics posts, SEO content, and really just thinking about how can we get that unique data out there, because we've seen that there's just been amazing performance gains from this approach.
Yeah, it might be hard to click on first go. Like we use that product led concept
Yeah.
that's snappy and SaaS. So our thought process, and to kind of walk through some of that of what we mean here beyond just doing a survey. We're on the YouTube version of this, we'll screen share, but as I pull it up, I'll also talk through the idea to hopefully paint it a little clearer about what we're talking about. First, you do the big trends report. So in our case, we have a content marketing trends report. We surveyed around 300 people in our kind of niche industry, and we got unique data to Siege Media in that report. That's quite valuable. This piece on its own will hopefully be thought leadership beneficial for us, generate business on its own. It can rank for content marketing trends as a keyword. But beyond that aspect, we've now created data that we can repurpose across all of our content strategy. And the product-led component is that it can tie and be included on our sales pages. So we're talking very directly about content marketing, link acquisition, content creation in this survey. And because of that, we could reasonably include that on our service pages. That's not always the case, unfortunately, in product-led or in digital PR generally. But in our case, and this done well, we believe does that. And what that does as well is it unlocks an easy inclusion in other SEO content throughout the site. So that's kind of the novel, less done thing as part of the strategy, is the inclusion across many different assets. So for us, we have a content marketing statistics post. On that post, we reference the data from that report. At the top of it, this is going to generate more links, brand awareness, mentions of all those articles. But beyond the kind of prototype stats post, we can also include it on any kind of content. So we also have an interactive content piece where we survey people in that trends report, how often they're using interactive content. We reference that data point in that piece. And that's more powerful. It's differentiated. It's not what every single other person can create for an example asset like this on their blog. We have unique things that only us can reference, and you can see how that's quite powerful. And the final example, just to hopefully paint this picture, we have that same data and we talk about how people are thinking about link building in 2024. We reference that at the top of a post about link building strategies. And that in turn makes that more, again, data-driven, unique to Siege. It kind of grabs attention at the top of a lot of these assets, which is one of our processes as well, kind of ties it all together. So I kind of briefly touched on some of that, Emily, but beyond just showing these examples and thinking about this, but what about this is better, or maybe what was wrong about previous digital PR approaches that we saw and we're guilty of ourselves in some instances?
Yeah, no, I think digital PR continues to evolve, and we've definitely done a lot of great thinking here and seen what's worked. I think what I'm most excited about is the product focus. I think asking yourself, could this live on a sales page, whether that data actually does or doesn't? Just the fact that it could and it is relevant to your audience in that way, using that as your North Star is really just going to make sure that your idea makes sense, that you're collecting relevant data that's going to then be able to be used across your content ecosystem. I think with digital PR, sometimes we have seen those examples of sort of a viral topic that gets a lot of links in the short term. Everyone's really excited, but then, when you think about the long-term SEO value, it's not there. And so asking yourself, how can we really collect relevant new niche data that makes sense for our audience and leverage it across the whole ecosystem? That's including digital PR in a really strategic way that's going to have long-term SEO value. That's what I'm most excited about with this strategy, and kind of how it all integrates together with SEO at the forefront.
Yeah, agreed. And like it's relevant now. Like AI, it's it was always relevant, but we're in a space where we know AI is going to produce a lot of mass spammy content. Differentiation is more critical. Google AI itself are looking for
Mhm.
content that has what's called information gain in
Yeah.
quotes. So this seems like a very obvious way to only do things that your content would have and stand out for. So that's just yet another reason we're excited about that process.
It really helps you just level up the content you're creating, which is so important in the age of AI. So having that new data has really just been key to our strategy.
Agreed. And this is not just a qualitative instinct. We did go and test this idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, we obviously are doing it for ourselves. We're just starting the kind of we weren't doing it to the extent we could have been in terms of incorporating the data across all SEO content. That, as mentioned, that's one of the more novel things we're talking about here. But we're really pushing. But it's working well for us. We're seeing other clients already doing it and seeing a lot of success. And the core kind of case study there, we can't share the client, but we looked at a sample of 100 of their SEO content pages. 55 of their pages referenced their unique first party data report. 45 did not reference that data. And the difference in performance of the articles that did reference it was 83% more traffic value, 51% more traffic, and 34% more links. And that's pretty wild. And also worth noting, that link number is probably on the conservative side because they had a really, really large outlier on the non-data side that if you remove that, it's probably more like 50% difference. So I think that on its own is like a pretty powerful incorporation of just this can make a difference in it. And there's examples out there that clearly shows that it does.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, it's a great opportunity to really just think about your broader content ecosystem and how all of the content you're creating kind of maps together, right? By creating these bigger trends reports, you're strategically thinking on the front end, what data do we need to collect? And then using that to build out a content roadmap and an editorial calendar that's going to make the most sense for your goals. So, very excited to see this come together a little bit more across the team.
Yeah, and you noted something that we just are iterating our process around of making sure we have a consistent data bank that all writers kind of like reference. It's like a peripheral
Yeah,
vision. Like I know I have this data, I can reference
yeah.
it in my article.
Yeah, no, that was kind of one of the initial, sort of supplementary ideas that came from this as I started talking to the team about it. We started to realize we have a lot of this data already from running these bigger surveys. But in the past, maybe you're only thinking about one hook or angle for the story, and there's a lot more that we could dig into to use for supplementary assets. So a team member had an idea of let's build a data bank, let's get this all in one spot. And so having that in place allows the team to kind of quickly reference what metrics can we incorporate, how old are they, what topics are they going to make the most sense in. Another strategy we thought about too is looking for sort of like a downloadable PDF of additional findings so that your information is living on the site and can then be referenced across other content formats as well. So, collecting this data isn't always cheap. It's a really thoughtful process that you need to undertake. And so for us, it seemed like a no brainer of like, how can we better leverage this? And I think step one is just being aware of all those insights and how it all kind of connects to that broader content ecosystem so we can really capitalize on it.
Yeah, you remind me, Emily, of probably an objection people are already thinking about this is like, I don't have first party data.
Yeah.
Like we know that in many instances, and we have solves for that. So how do people that are listening to this actually go get that data? Like what are
Yeah.
the common routes? Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the routes that we've had the most success with is running surveys. So you can use different survey tools like SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics, many others. We personally like SurveyMonkey as sort of the most effective platform. We've done a lot of research on different opportunities, and it's worth digging into your unique use case. But step one would be find a relevant survey platform that you could use and analyze the cost per question. One insight we found is that running additional questions, there's a lot of ROI there. You know, I think in the past we would advise the team to start with the headline that they want to get, start thinking about like what questions can I ask to help get this really interesting insight that we can pitch to journalists. And in fact, you know, taking a broader approach, still thinking of newsworthy angles, but not just one, multiple angles that we could potentially take allows us to be more thoughtful with the questions we're asking, ask more questions, and get more insights that we can then leverage across the content that we're creating.
Agreed. Yeah, it's not cheap by any means. Depending on your audience, the more niche B2B, the more expensive it's going to get, of course. But it can vary from 2,000 for a well done survey to 10,000 for a relatively niche audience. It could get more expensive than that if you're kind of asking for C-suite responses, kind of things like that. But if that's your buyer persona, and you think about the fact you spend even $15,000 to get 10 questions answered that you could repurpose over a whole year's strategy, that, I mean, that's a very cheap, in my opinion, effort, especially when you think about that result.
Yeah, when we started thinking about the broader content ecosystem, it just felt like very strategic to operate in this way. I think when you're running surveys, only thinking about one post that you could get out of it or one headline that you're going to pitch, the ROI isn't there as much. And that's why we love this strategy is that you can still do those really newsworthy, buzzworthy surveys. You can do these really built out trends reports that help you position yourself as a thought leader. But it doesn't stop there, right? Like you can keep using those insights across all your content. And then it's a lot easier to make the argument for why it's worth spending that money, why it's worth getting that proprietary data. That being said, you know, if you have your own proprietary data, that can also be used as well. So we've seen success with both options. And I think like a blended approach is probably like the sweet spot when possible.
Agreed. Yeah, by all means, proprietary data is amazing. It's just always easier said than done.
Right.
Most of
It's
the
like in
time.
a
Yeah.
perfect world, we would use it. So yeah, by all means, I think this is a great opportunity to collect those insights and get the team involved too, so that you can really leverage them across your content.
I was going to ask you a question on that data kind of side, like
Yeah.
beyond survey. Now we hopefully people know that this is feasible. It's possible to pay for. It makes sense if you're taking content seriously.
Yeah.
How do you know that data? How do you make it more relevant? How do you create these surveys to be uh, effective to the degree we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think that getting really clear on who the audience you're polling is key. You mentioned sort of like the niche B2B audiences. They're going to be more expensive, but that's important to go after, right? To create something that's truly valuable. I think starting with taking a step back and like looking at your content calendar too, and thinking about like what are the core topics we want to create this year. What maybe asking yourself new products that are coming out or areas that need more content support on your site and starting there and kind of working backwards, thinking, you know, what data is going to be important to have to feature in these articles? How can we really be a thought leader? We also think a lot about these annual trends reports. So, you know, for Siege, right, we have our content marketing trends report as sort of our annual trends report, and then beyond that, we kind of deep dive into link building and other topics. So I think there's opportunity there as well.
Yeah, love that. I mean, you kind of got me noodling on nine more things we could be doing, which we're
Right.
already naturally because you're at the helm here. But like the idea of you have that hero trends piece, and then you naturally have maybe it's nine posts after that. In our
Right.
case, we had a question on interactive content. We had a question on link building strategies. You could see naturally, you just look at those nine articles and be like, let's reverse engineer a question
Yeah.
for each of these articles that becomes the pillar asset. Wow, that's powerful.
It's cool because it's sort of something that the teams, or it is something the team's been doing for a while, but when you look backward and kind of connect the dots, you're able to build out a framework that others can use as well. So I think the longer runway you can use for that, your content calendar, and then reverse engineering those questions are going to help you get really powerful data.
Agreed. And this is like another, I mean, I talked about 34% more links. Maybe that number is low, but like this is a link building strategy beyond that, for sure. Of like things that maybe hadn't attracted as many links, like is going to help power overall link acquisition in a really scalable fashion. We do suggest kind of nudging this first asset because it's hopefully so high leverage when it's like a big encompassing report.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this is like beyond just wider content strategy, just makes everything more novel, which naturally is going to attract more links.
Yeah, it really helps you think about how it kind of all fits together. Those organic link generators. Some topics are going to need that manual push, like you mentioned, and then you'll have your SEO content as well that has that unique first party data perspective as well. So I know this is something new, that we're really excited about, but I'd love to hear, Ross, from your vantage point, like where do you see this going from here? I know we're still noodling and iterating, but love to hear kind of what you think future might look like.
Yeah, I mean, we'll keep. I think already. Iterating on one idea just from our podcast a little bit,
Yeah.
but you already had it in mind clearly. But yeah, we are. I mean, good digital PR, good first party data, that always should be distributed on social, on email. So it is top of mind for us to kind of build out those services to further emphasize what we will now be doing almost every single time for clients, because we now have content that can do that. Like you couldn't really say that for SEO content, unfortunately. Like not all of that is worth being distributed for most clients because it's not true thought leadership. But this done well will be distributed that way because you want to get the full mileage out of it. It's going to do more for you than just rank. It's going to generate kind of brand affinity as well from what we've seen. So yeah, just more effort there, I think, is going to be necessary. And maybe that's just a newer way of thinking about manual outreach, as you've noted to me. That's somewhat of a dated term. So I think it's just more important to make sure that content is being promoted in every aspect, which unfortunately, I wouldn't be shocked other people do digital PR. Not always is even social teams distributing that. And that's
Yeah.
probably also because it's not tied to products. Someone's embarrassed internally about that. And
Yeah, that's always the biggest learning, right? Is I think back on past stuff that you've seen, right? Or other digital PR efforts where, yeah, it's got that short-term push, but then someone internally is like, what is this? Why did we create that? And I think this strategy future proofs against that, right? It's all connected. But by collecting data and thinking strategically, creatively for those surveys, you're still able to create something creative and new. So it's a nice bit of both while keeping SEO at the core.
agreed. And I think you noted on something that's worth considering here that I think people understand is like the upside from the initial push on the links is probably a little lower because it is a little tied product more so, but you're going to get actual conversions and it's going to drive much more value across your entire ecosystem that will net exponentially make up for the initial push kind of dampening. And as we've seen, a lot of people have seen, maybe saw in the API links, like you might get a lot of links from something that goes viral, but it's arguable it even like does anything for you beyond
Yeah.
fill out a report, unfortunately.
No, I think it's a great takeaway and kind of speaks to just how digital PR continues to evolve. And what I like too is that this makes it really clear what the goals for each individual content format is and how it all sort of works together. And you're not that way, you're not trying to do everything with one type of asset, but you're still accomplishing all the different goals kind of across channels.
Agreed. Yeah, this will be fun to watch. We'll see how this goes from here, but it's going to be a critical part of our strategy. Appreciate you bringing this idea to us, Emily, and we're excited to monitor it. So we look forward to everyone's feedback, and let us know if you had any thoughts across whatever platform you listen to this on.